Mr. Van Hulst, how much longer do we have in terms of fossil fuel? How much longer? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? When are we out of coal, oil, gas? Never? Tell us.
None of us sitting here will ever see that day. It's my prediction. Really, I think this is, this is a myth that, we don't have enough fossil fuels. We will have fossil fuels. The reserves now in oil and gas today are as large as they were 20 years ago or 30 years ago, despite the huge consumption that we had until now.
A colleague of mine wrote a best-selling book and says, we got peak oil shortly, we're out of oil, it's going to be a disaster.
Yes, but really, I'm telling you, this is a myth which has been going around a lot. By the way, you hear a lot less about it last year.
So I don't have to buy a Toyota Prius then, there's no point?
I don't know. One of the main reasons is, if I try to explain it very quickly, is that, it is not like a glass of water, where you say, I drink my glass of water and if I finish it, the oil is finished. It is not like that. If I tell you the recovery rate, the average recovery rate at the global level of oil today is 35%. Now, it's a technical term, I apologize, but it means 65% of the oil which is in the ground stays there. Now, why does it stay there? It stays there because we do not have the technology yet to get it out, or it is too costly to get it out. Now, if I increase my recovery rate to 36%, I have 2 years more of global oil consumption and only increasing it with 1%. So obviously the technology will develop, and we are now getting oil out of the ground, very deep sea, at levels which 10, 15 years ago would be thought completely unthinkable. So this technology will progress, and if oil would become more scarce, which it probably will, and the price will go up again, then the incentive, the economic incentive also, to recover more oil will be also going up. So again, you will not see the end of oil, nor will your children.
But I mean, without being facetious and without trying to be funny, seriously though, I blocked out 20 minutes for our discussion about the energy crisis. Shall we skip to the next chapter?
Yes. This is not the issue. Yes.
But where do all these stories about energy shortage, about fossil fuels running out, where do they come from?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people which are what I call techno-pessimists. They think, yes, it is true that we have this technological advances, but we sort of are at a plateau at the end of it. But this is not how I think innovation, we heard a very nice intermezzo also about innovation. Obviously there is a lot of innovation going on, and I tell you, in fields in Saudi Arabia, again I make this comparison with the global recovery rate of 35%. In major fields in Saudi Arabia, they're moving towards 50% recovery rate. In the Norwegian continental shelf, companies are recovering up to 60% now. So if you would move, probably in 15, 20 years, to that kind of level of recovery rates, obviously we will have enough oil. Really, the issue is much more the investment, because it takes a lot of investment to get it out of the ground and get it timely into the markets. Issue of deliverability of oil and gas is a much larger issue than the issue of availability.
And how about, okay, so assume we have enough oil, depending of course on the price when it becomes...
Maybe just as a footnote, I mean, we have had 2 large ministerial meetings this year, in 2008, where consuming countries, producing countries, over 60 ministers, over 30 CEOs from big companies, oil companies, were all together. And this was one of the outcomes. I call it the new energy consensus.
Was there anybody from Holland there? Anybody?
Of course.
Who was there?
The Dutch Minister of Economic Affairs, Maria van der Hoeven, was there.
So why didn't she tell us then?
Jeroen van der Veer was there, CEO from Shell was there.
Jeroen van der Veer has adverts in the newspaper, and I'll get to the other gentleman in a second, and magazines every day saying we're looking for new energy alternatives.
Of course, but that's what I'm saying. No, he's saying he's discovering, he needs to discover more oil, and it's the end of cheap oil. This is a different story. That's why I'm saying the issue of investment, getting the investment going, to go deep sea in Brazil, to go to the Arctic, to go to other areas in the world, is becoming increasingly complex and costly. But this is not a story about then the availability. I mean, it is there, but you have to go increasingly to deep sea and difficult places.